Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. All praise is due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be on the last messenger of Allah. In this episode, we'll be looking at the third component of the educational process. That is the Muslim teacher. The Muslim teacher is as critical and as important as the Muslim student and Muslim or Islamic education. Like the Muslim student, the Muslim teacher can be divided into two types. A teacher who happens to be a Muslim, and a Muslim who happens to be a teacher. The teacher who happens to be a Muslim, if we have such teachers in our institution, our Islamic educational institution, then we are doomed to failure. Because that teacher could just as well have been a Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Confucianist, atheist, could have been anything. They are just doing a job. You're paid for it, you do the job. They don't look at the job as anything beyond a means of earning a living. You do it, whatever material you have in the books that you're required to teach, you teach. It doesn't matter to you what it says, it's irrelevant. As long as you get your pay at the end of the month, that's what counts. So, a teacher with that kind of attitude is useless to the Muslim institution. Such types of teachers have to be removed, fired, either upgraded, taught. If they can't respond and learn, then you get rid of them. Muslim institution must have teachers who are Muslims first and foremost. They're Muslims who happen to be teachers. They could have been students, dentists, doctors, engineers, whatever else. But their Islam is first. That is what is given first consideration. So that is your starting point for the Muslim teacher. He or she is aware of the goals of Islamic education, the goals of education in general. They are aware of their role and their importance. They understand, as Allah had said in the Quran with regards to those of people of knowledge, He had said, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. Only the scholars, the knowledgeable, truly fear Allah among His servants. That's in the 35th chapter of the Quran, verse 28. So, for Islamic education, the Islamic educator who is going to convey that education, he or she must first and foremost have knowledge. Because that's what distinguishes them, makes them teachers in the first place. They have knowledge which the others don't. And Allah said with regards to them in the 39th chapter, verse 9, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Say, are those who know equal to those who do not know? They're not equal. Similarly, Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, had said, إِنَّ فَضْلَ الْعَالِمِ عَلَى الْعَابِدِ كَفَضْلِ الْقَمَرِ لَيْلَةَ الْبَدْرِ عَلَى سَائِرِ الْكَوَاكِبِ. The superiority of the learned over the devout is like that of the moon over the stars. Superiority of the learned individual, male or female teacher, over the devout, a worshipper of Allah, but they're devout, they worship regularly, etc. Superiority of one over the other is like the moon when it is full with regards to the stars in the sky. The moon outshines them completely. So that quality of knowledge is a primary quality which Muslim educators must acquire. Of course, they should be able to distinguish between correct knowledge and incorrect knowledge, useful knowledge and useless knowledge, which I've spoken about in a previous episode. Because they are going to be conveying that information to their students. So they should be able to distinguish between these various types of knowledge and get to the student what they need to learn. Also, they need to be able to prioritize knowledge. We have what we call fard al-ain, or individually obligatory knowledge, and fard kifaya, which is community obligatory knowledge. Individual obligatory knowledge means you as an individual must acquire this knowledge. Community obligatory knowledge means as long as somebody in the community gets that knowledge, the obligation is removed from the community as a whole. So we have to be able to prioritize the knowledge. And lastly, the educator, the Muslim teacher, should be properly qualified for the vocation of teaching. They shouldn't be a teacher merely because of the fact that they've been to university. We find this oftentimes in many Muslim institutions. A person is made a teacher simply because they have a BA or a BSc. But they haven't learned the methodology of teaching. They haven't learned about child psychology. How you're dealing with children, you must have that knowledge. This is fard ayn on you. This is the individual required knowledge for you as a teacher. That is the profession you're taking on, so you should have that knowledge. You should understand the psychology of the youths. That will aid you in the conveyance of the knowledge to them. The second basic principle, or we could call it prerequisites for the Muslim educator, is that of faith. They must have the correct faith. That their belief in Islam is in accordance with that which was taught by Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, and was understood by his companions. So people who are coming from backgrounds which are filled with shirk and bid'ah, deviation, misunderstandings, and all these other kinds of things, such people should not be in the Muslim institution. They need to be re-educated first before you put them in the institution, because they will affect the children. They will impart their ideas regardless of what they're teaching. Because as we said, education is a socialization process. It's a way by which a society conveys its values to the next generation. So the teacher is the means by which those values are conveyed. So whatever values the teacher holds, that's what he or she will convey. So it is very important that the faith of the teacher be correct. And that's why fundamentally in the Muslim institution, where people have a choice, then the teacher should be good, practicing Muslims. To bring non-Muslims into the teaching staff of the Muslim institution is a mistake. Even if people say, oh, but they're only teaching English, or they're only teaching mathematics, they're not teaching something which has to do with faith, etc., it is going to affect the school. Because, for example, in the girls' school, if you're going to require the teacher to wear hijab and dress as a Muslim would dress, many non-Muslims would not accept that. And really, in societies where people recognize other religious groups as having rights in terms of within Muslim institutions to not conform, then you have a problem. Because if that teacher says, I don't want to, and the union or whatever is going to defend me, my right not to wear hijab and to do whatever I feel like, talk about Christmas or, whatever, in the class, then it is going to affect the quality of the education of the children, without a doubt. The last part of the concept of faith in the educator is that faith should put in the educator a sense of patience, that they should be patient with their students. Because the educational process is a trying process. And if one doesn't have patience, then one will not be able to educate properly. It's very easy to become impatient. It's very difficult to be patient. That's why for parents trying to teach their own children, sometimes it's very difficult. They tend not to have the kind of patience that teachers will have. So this is why we stress also as an extension of faith. We have patience because that is a product of good faith. The third characteristic or prerequisite of the educator is that he or she be sincere, that they are involved in this educational process as a teacher because they recognize that it is a form of worshiping Allah, that they are blessed by it. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said, everything in the world is cursed except for the remembrance of Allah, what brings you closer to it, the teacher and the student. So they know they're in a special position, the teacher and the student. It's a sacred position. They're conveying what is pleasing to Allah. They're worshiping Allah by teaching. So if they have that sense, then there will be sincerity. If they're only doing it for material gain, then there won't be sincerity. So it means that the students will be affected. They will not get the full cooperation and the full effort of the teachers themselves. The last prerequisite for the educator is that he or she should be involved in righteousness, that their deeds, the way they behave, the way they carry themselves is righteous, because the example of the teacher will speak much louder than their words. The students will follow the teacher's example in their practice. So they should be a good example. They should be a good model, a role model for the students in their practice. So that, we'll say, is the fourth essential prerequisites for the Muslim educator. Now, in terms of the Muslim teacher in general, we could say that there are qualities that the Muslim teacher should also have outside of these fundamental prerequisites, which are really prerequisites for every Muslim. Knowledge, faith, sincerity, and righteous deeds. This is a requirement for every Muslim. But as a Muslim teacher, it's something which does need to be stressed. However, carrying on to the qualities of the Muslim educator in general, we could say that among them, that teacher should recognize that they are on a sacred mission, which I spoke about in the sincerity element. Secondly, they should be merciful and loving. As the Prophet ﷺ had said, he is not one of us who does not show respect to our elders and show mercy to our little ones. As a teacher, it becomes even more critical that he or she be merciful to the children, because impatience is a part of human nature, and teaching young people, children, etc., is very trying. So for one to be able to maintain that sense of mercy and compassion for the children is not necessarily so easy, but this is what is a quality necessary for the Muslim teacher. Also, there should be justice. The Muslim educator should be just in dealing with his or her students. Rewards and punishment, which is meted out in class, should be fair. It shouldn't be that you punish a student that you don't like personally and you reward the student that you like personally. It shouldn't be about a personal thing. Corporal punishment should be a last resort. Students are out of hand, not the first thing you do is hit them. There are other things to do. They may be required to do homework assignments or other things which may carry some positive benefit for them. But hitting should be among the last resorts. And of course, this is only where it is permissible, either legally in the country or in the institution. Fourthly, there should be care and concern between the teacher and the students. That teacher should be enough concerned that he or she knows the names of their students, that each individual is known to them. Their parents are known to them. What are the family circumstances of the children? Because oftentimes these circumstances will affect the way that the child learns. And if one hasn't looked into that child's background, and understood their situation, then you may be unfairly penalizing them for a circumstance which is beyond their abilities, beyond their control. So it is important that the teacher understands the students that he or she is teaching. They have an understanding of their background, know about their parents, know their family situations. Sometimes students, maybe in your class and the parents just divorced. And that has created, a sense of imbalance in the mind of the student. So they can't concentrate well. So in class, all you see is the student not concentrating, whereas the other students are. So you want to penalize that student, when really, if you understood the background, you would be more sympathetic. Fifthly, the teacher should prepare himself or herself properly. Lesson plans is a must. One should prepare one's lessons prior to classes properly. So you come in and you're, on top of your material. You're not looking to extend classes or shorten classes based on the fact that you are unprepared. As they say in business, etc., if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's a basic principle. If you don't plot your lessons out properly, then your lessons are not going to come off properly. That is the basic law, as they say, garbage in, garbage out. Lastly, sixthly, the Muslim educator should be a good example for the student, because the example, as we said, speaks louder than words. Practice, what a teacher does, will speak much louder than what the teacher says. The teacher may tell them to do things, but if they themselves are not doing it, or they hear from them things which contradict what is being taught in the class, then the nature of students is that they are going to follow the example which is shown them by their teachers. If we look at the educational process itself, which we discussed earlier, we said that education is a process by which a society conveys its cultural values to the next generation. So it is important, as a Muslim educator, that one is conscious and realizes that they are imparting Islamic culture. And as such, that should be incorporated in their classroom presentations. I would add to that for Muslim schools that are caught in the dilemma of today, where we don't have suitable materials for the teachers to use, which are from Islamic perspectives, we end up having to cut up books and things like this, removing the objectionable parts of the textbooks. I would suggest that what teachers do is that they work into their lesson plan for each lesson how some Islamic principle or thought or behavior would be incorporated in each and every class, regardless of the subject. And at the end of the year, they will have developed a small supplementary text which can be used for improving the teaching for the year to come. And if other teachers are teaching the same class, have them do the same. Discuss at the end of the year, what did we achieve? Choose out of what everybody has done, what is the most effective. The second basic point which I feel should be considered here, or is this the third? Maybe it's the third point, is that of the teaching environment. That the school environment should be permeated with the remembrance of Allah. Salah, prayer in congregation, should be established in the school. Assemblies should be begun with Bismillah. Students should feel that the environment of the school, the ethos of the school, is Islamic. What this means also is that the reward of students in the school should be based more on Islamic principles than on academic excellence. Academic excellence is important. You have a prize for the top students who achieve the highest marks. But there should be Also, greater prizes for the best Muslim students, those who showed the best character throughout the year, who changed themselves, became better students, and worked to promote Islamic values in the school. So in a class setting as well as in the school setting, there should be rewards for Islamic excellence. Lastly, I'd like to mention the Islamic teaching methodology that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, as an Islamic teacher, used a variety of methods to convey his message. And these methods, can be found in modern teaching texts today, and they should be employed. A teacher shouldn't be stuck in one particular rut, on one particular track. They don't use anything else, they don't improve their methods, they don't add new thoughts and ideas, etc. No, they should be ready to vary their methods according to the classes that they have, according to the circumstances. Also, they should study the experience of others, gain benefit from them, and be able to utilize it in their own teaching. Finally, I'd like to mention, in closing, that the teacher, the Muslim teacher, has to be conscious of his role or her role as a Muslim educator. These are among the things which are necessary for us to produce good, righteous Islamic educators who are an important component of the Islamic educational system, undeniably so. But being good educators, Muslim educators, will not exist or cannot exist on its own. It has to have an environment, the school. It has to have material which is taught for that component to function effectively. So for Islamic education to be successful, one, you must have an institution which has the right perspective, it has the right environment. Two, you must have Muslim students who are conscious of what it means to be a Muslim student, and not merely a student who happens to be a Muslim. And three, one must have teachers who are Muslims first. Not Muslims by accident, but Muslims by choice. They are necessary, with the other prerequisites of being properly educated, having the skills, etc., sincerity, etc., etc. With that, we'd like to close our program, our episode, and we thank you for being with us and hope that you will follow future episodes of our program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.